So let's look at how we kind of present the lesson. And I'm making a video versus showing you live because a few things that I need you to see that Zoom won't let me show you in quite as much detail as perhaps a screen recording like this will let me do. And if you have questions or if you have a need to make a screen recording, that could be a whole nother topic, just reach out to me and maybe after this video, if that's something you want to know, we can look at that. Everybody should have that capability on their computer without having to download some external program. Okay, so I always like, just like when we're getting ready to teach our real classes, we get there a little early to set things up. That's just part of being a teacher. So for me, same thing with Zoom. I like to get there 15 to 30 minutes early and basically set up my virtual classroom. So when students log in or enter the classroom, they're basically going to be seeing um, a message telling them, class will begin shortly or whatever, something along those lines. So log into Zoom just like this. Of course, it pulls up this. If it's a scheduled meeting, then you would just go to your meetings. Here's some of my scheduled meetings that I have um, for my different classes, both my middle school classes and my ESL classes. You can set them to recurring. That way, you don't have to recreate the meeting every single time. And basically, to do that, if you've got it highlighted, just click Edit over here. I've got recurring meeting checked here. And when you hit save, it'll pull up open with default calendar. It does for me. It may show up in a different calendar for you. But basically, it opens up all of your options here. Um, Up here, if you click repeat, it lets you choose. So like I've got mine set for every Monday right here. And it should be every Wednesday too. Let's check that. Every Monday and every Wednesday. Of course, I've got my start time 6 to 8:30. And it just repeats it, so I don't have to recreate this meeting um, every single time. And hopefully by September 21st, we'll be back in in-person classes. So that's as far as I've let it go. Anyway, that's all you do on that regard. Anyway, back to actually teaching class. So I'm not going to enter this class. I'm going to create a new one just for the purposes of this recording. So let's get everything going here. The basic setup as far as getting in. Everybody should be pretty familiar with that. All right, so how do you teach using the PowerPoints and stuff that we created using our lessons? So you got your meeting here. You go down here to screen share. Of course, I don't have any participants right now. If I did, they would show up throughout here. But go to screen share, and you've got a few different options. Uh, Basically, it's showing you your different windows that you have open. I always just select screen because that's the easiest for me to navigate um, and get where I need to be. So I'm going to double click screen, and now I'm sharing my screen. What I see right now is what my students see right now. So again, I'm in my class, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes before class starts. So I'm just setting things up. So here's a class that I did last week on April 1st. So I pull up my PowerPoint, just like if you were presenting a PowerPoint to your live class. You just go to present, and so here's what it looks like. So when students log in, this is what they're seeing. Now, as far as starting this 15 to 30 minutes early, I always make sure that when I come up here, I mute. That way, if they're logging in, I could even turn off my video if I wanted to for now, and so they wouldn't even be able to see um, this video right here. It would just show up like that, and that's all they would see. And then when I got ready to start, then I could come in and uncheck these. Now they can see me. Now they can hear me. So here's what they're seeing. Like I said, it's basically like presenting a PowerPoint to a class that you're actually there teaching. And so you can just go through your slides, which we've already gone through how to create those in collaboration with a lesson plan. So I would have this. All of my students would show up right here along this side. And then we would just go through basically with the lesson. I would go down the list, ask them these different questions, maybe ask them how their family's doing, if everybody healthy. We talk about our objective. And then, like I said, we just kind of get into the lesson. Last week, we talked about April Fools and stuff like that. I showed them this video, and I learned a lesson last week as far as showing videos. I recorded the lesson. When I went back and listened, there was no sound. So my students didn't hear the sound, which was fine because it was just music in this case. But if you ever needed to show them a video that was teaching them, there's one extra step you have to do to make sure that they can hear your videos. So whenever you went up here to sharing, you look right down here, it says share computer sound. You need to always make sure that that is checked. If that's not checked, they're not going to be able to hear the audio from the video. So anyway, I just click on that and it takes me to the YouTube video. And again, I'm screen sharing, so whatever I see is what they see. Um, and so then we presented this video, full screen. We put it in full screen, and then they can watch the video with you. So that's how you would share videos. Anyway, YouTube, or I'm sorry, PowerPoint lesson. I mean, again, it's just like you would do in your normal class. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just go through your lesson. Something I really do like about this though is if you move your cursor up to the top here, and you've got these little options in Zoom. If you hit annotate right there, it gives you these options here, which are really amazing because you don't have to leave your PowerPoint to write on your presentation. So like if I needed to type something like I wanted some examples like um, your cat is black, I could just type it right here and they see that. And I can enter it and I could just give all these different examples. And then I could give some examples over here. Let me move that over just a little bit. Put, you're a great student. We could do lists of examples. And in fact, whenever I presented this lesson, um, to help them a little bit, I labeled this your. I said, okay, well, class, we'll label that number 1, and we will label this one over here number 2. And so I would say, Joe Smith, give me an example using number 1, your. Uh, and so we kind of went through that. And then if you need to erase it, you can erase all. If you hit clear, you can clear all. Or if you just needed to erase certain ones, you could, as long as you're over it, it'll erase the whole thing like that. And then when you're done, you just X out the annotate, and then you can just keep going um, into the lesson. This is getting into vocabulary. It's really cool to have the vocabulary words with a picture. That helps them kind of identify everything, obviously, giving them that visual. And then again, the next part of the lesson, ordering food, put into a table. And then I displayed this menu right here from Sonic, and I asked the students, order for me. And then we went down one by one and had them order for me in that regard. Anyway, I really like PowerPoint. I think it's a great way to present the lesson, and it kind of keeps you a little more organized as far as content. Now, one other thing I do want to mention, because Zoom's recently changed a few things. Whenever you start a meeting, Zoom defaults it to have a waiting room, and basically what that means is people can't enter your classroom unless you say, okay, they can enter. So you have to go up here to manage and allow them to enter. Well, if you're teaching, you don't have time to necessarily go back and let all these late arrivals in, especially with us. For me, anyway, it's not a huge class, so it's pretty easy. If someone were to pop in, I'd be able to tell if they weren't supposed to be there, and I could pick them out pretty easy. So for me personally, let me get out of this PowerPoint. I turn waiting room off, and to do that, if you're on your main Zoom page right here, if you click this settings right here, and then you go down to more settings here. And again, you may want waiting room on, and that's fine. And again, waiting room is just like what it sounds. People can't join your class. It's going to throw them into a waiting room, and then you have to manually let them in. So right here, you would just turn it off. Like, see, mine's off right now. And then really the only other thing that I found very useful is, let me actually go back, return to meeting. Let's see, do a new share. We'll do a screen. Let's say that I am in the middle of my PowerPoint. I don't know, we'll say I'm on this slide here. The current slide. So you're looking at this, and let's say that, I don't know, they had a question about a clock, and they wanted some different examples of analog or digital. Well, if I didn't really have room to write on my PowerPoint, I can come up here to the new share and just do whiteboard, and that's going to put a blank white screen. And again, you're going to have all these annotate tools up here. So you can, type in some examples. Basically it's just having a marker board in the middle of your lesson. And then when you're done, if you just close it out, it'll throw you back in to your PowerPoint right there. And so there you are. Another really cool feature of the annotate tool is if you needed to just, I don't know, like say you needed to draw attention to something. If I can get it here, maybe. Anyway, so maybe you need to just draw some attention to, I don't know, something you're presenting. So if you pull up the annotate menu and just ignore this menu here. This is something I'm using for my screen record. Anyway, if you come up here to the annotate, you can draw. So maybe you just need to, I don't know, point an arrow to this and then say something about it, or maybe you just need to circle, clock and clock. So there's a lot of different options for you as far as using that as well. Anyway, it's really cool. Like I said, it's basically like using PowerPoint in the actual classroom. So to me, it's the most effective way to deliver your instruction. We'll just clear all drawings. And that is pretty much it. Like I said, you would just, go on through your lesson, go on through your PowerPoint. If you ever needed to switch over to whiteboard, you've got that option. All of your students would be listed here on the right. That is basically how to present a lesson using PowerPoint. Again, just make sure that when you're presenting it, you're in your actual PowerPoint, you're coming up here to slideshow, and you're doing it from beginning or from whatever slide you have selected, and that just lets it be in full screen. So there we have it.